Why do we display the Rebbe's picture? And why did the Rebbe oppose to people taking pictures of him in the early years?
I don't think the Rebbe's opposition was limited to the earlier years. I think the Rebbe always had an issue with our preoccupation with photos and with chitzonius. There's a video of a Yid coming to the Rebbe from Mexico, an elderly Yid, and he introduces himself and he tells the Rebbe that he learned by Rabbi Yafin in Navardik, and now he's living in Mexico City. So the Rebbe told him, bring in Yene Limudim to Mexico, to bring what he learned in the old country to Mexico. And then he asked the Rebbe if the Rebbe could give him a picture of himself. And the Rebbe's reaction is like, what? There's so many. It's like the world is deluged. The Rebbe's reaction was like, come on. And Label Groner Zogazunzain said to this Yid, to this Rav, I'll give you a photo. And you see from the Rebbe's reaction, the Rebbe's displeasure. Here is the way I see it, and I don't think this is a grace of Giluyim, I think it's quite obvious. The Rebbe wanted his photo, but the Rebbe didn't want Chassidim to be into his photo. The Rebbe wanted Chassidim to be into his Teda. The Rebbe wanted photographers and news people to take his pictures, and that the place of the Rebbe's picture is in the world where image and pictures are important, but that Chassidim should be involved in more pneumistic thing. It was very disturbing to the Rebbe when Chassidim were taking his photos, Lubavitcher Chassidim, even children. There's a number of stories that I'm aware of. First of all, there's a tape of a Fabrengen where the Rebbe stops in the middle of a Sikha and asks, Fregem tziyad gelern Tanya. Ask him about, someone was taking a picture of the Rebbe if he learned Tanya today. So they asked this person and he said no. And the Rebbe responded very favorably that he hadn't lied, that it was made ala emes. I know a story from a relative of mine. It was a boy. And the Rebbe took the camera out of his hand, took it away from him, and gave it to his principal. And he had to earn it back by doing all kinds of good things. The Rebbe didn't have a problem with pictures. The Rebbe had a problem with who was taking the photo. And when a bocher or a younger man or a chassid who should have been busy with more pneumistic pursuits was involved in chitzoniistic pursuits, it bothered the Rebbe, and it bothered the Rebbe as much in Tafshin and Beis as it did in Tafshin Yud Beis. I don't think that ever changed. That's as far as that's concerned. Now, as far as having the Rebbe's picture goes, I'm going to share some stories that I heard from different people who have now passed away. I'm not saying their names, maybe because I want to protect them, but I know their names and privately I can share who they are. Two different people who told me two different things. The first is as follows. There's a Yid that I knew many years ago who was sent to art school by the previous Rebbe, by the Friedrich Rebbe. And mamish months before the previous Rebbe passed away, the previous Rebbe called him and asked him to make a likeness of himself, a painting of the Friedrich Rebbe. I saw that painting. I was in this man's house and I saw it. And when the Friedrich Rebbe passed away, he stopped. And the painting remained unfinished. It's quite finished, but it's unfinished. So after the Rebbe Reyatz's Histalkos, the Friedrich Rebbe's Histalkos, the Rebbe came to him and asked him to finish it. And he said, I can't. The Rebbe was nostalgic, he's finished. And the Rebbe wanted him to do it. And in order to encourage him to do it, the Rebbe gave him a stack of pictures. In his words, a stack of photographs like this here. So he told me, this is a direct quote now, I looked at the photographs, but I didn't finish the picture. He enjoyed the fact that the Rebbe had given him this pile of pictures to look through, but he never finished it. And it shows, amongst other things, that the Rebbe himself had pictures of the Friedrich Rebbe. Now, I don't know how extensive the Rebbe's collection of pictures were. What's obvious, what we know for a fact is the Rebbe was very, very involved in the Rebbe's citizenship, in the previous Rebbe's citizenship, where he hired, I think, 3 photographers to take pictures, and all those pictures the Rebbe paid for, and the Rebbe had that collection. But I suspect the Rebbe Pasha had pictures of the Friedrich Rebbe like any chassid does. So the Rebbe was collecting pictures, but it had a place. In other words, it had a level of importance. And now the second story. Again, a Yid, I know, I heard it from him directly. I'm not saying his name, but I'm not saying his name because I doubt whether it's true. I'm not saying his name because I feel like I shouldn't. He was a Sephardic Yid, a Sephardic Jew, who actually was Chinese. He wasn't Chinese for 1,000 generations, but his ancestors had come to China. Certainly his parents were in China. He was born there, in Shanghai. And of course, during the war, he met the yeshivas that came. There was the Midr Yeshiva, there was the Lublina Yeshiva, there was the Lubavitch Yeshiva, there was the Amshin of Rebbe, and there was Harav Ashkenazi, the Rav. After the war, he moved to Canada. And he became involved in all of these groups. The Midr had an influence on him, the Lublina had an influence on him, and the Lubavitch had an influence on him. After the war, he became close to the Kloisenberger Rebbe, and he was also close to the Rebbe. And the Kloisenberger Rebbe came from a Hungarian background. And at least at that time, they were very, very against pictures. If you've ever seen it, there are people in Yerushalayim till this day who will block their face when you try to take their photo. The Rebbe, our Rebbe, before he was Rebbe, would put his hand on his nose, go like this, because the nose is considered the parts of Aponim. And by touching his nose, it's no longer a photo, a likeness, because of the Shaila of Larisim called Tumuna. And the Kloisenberger Rebbe spoke out very strongly against photos, not only against taking pictures, but against having pictures. So this young, hot-blooded Sfardi took the words of the Kloisenberger Rebbe very literally, and he threw all the pictures he owned into a fire and burnt them. Amongst the pictures that he burnt were pictures of the Frierdiker Rebbe, of the Amshin Rebbe, and of his family, including photos of his already then deceased father, and he has no more pictures of his father. Destroyed them all. As time passed, he began to reconsider that maybe he acted too compulsively. So as he became closer to the Rebbe, he went into the Rebbe, and he asked the Rebbe about it, that the Kloisenberger Rebbe was so against pictures, but he sees that in Lubavitch there are pictures. For those who don't know, the previous Rebbe, when he published the Hatomim in the 30s, made a point of printing pictures of himself in the Hatomim, so that Hasidim overseas would be able to see the Rebbe, because they were far away. And of course, he also printed photos of the Alter Rebbe and the Tzemach Tzedek and the Rebbe Rashab, which are the Rabbeim at that time that were available, that were extant. So we asked the Rebbe about it. And the Rebbe told him the following. And again, I heard this 35 years ago, so I cannot attest that this is precise, but this is the spirit of what he told me. Du bist gerecht. Says, do in dem a klippe. You're right, there is a klippe in holding a photo, because a photo may be the beginning of a bust, of a three-dimensional image, which you're not allowed to make midderais. Aber as the Rabbeim haben gesehen, as es da Atayelles, in halten sie ihre Bilder, haben sie für dem zugenommen die Klippe. Und als sie haben von dem zugenommen die Klippe, haben sie zugenommen in ganz. And in English this means as follows. He says there is spiritually reasons not to have pictures. But the Rabbeim saw the need, the benefit that would come to people by having the photo of a Rebbe. Because the chayas that it gives. And the Rebbe wrote after the Rebbetzin passed away, that now we have her picture. During her lifetime, nobody had her photo. All of a sudden, she passes away, everybody has her picture, because it adds in the v'hacha yitin alibe. It brings her closer to you, brings her into your world, into your home, and it makes you a better Jew. And the same is true, holding a photo of the Rebbe brings the Rebbe into your sphere, into your Dalet Ames, and it makes you better for it. So the Rabbeim took the klipa, the spiritual ill that was in a picture out, and he said once they removed the klipa from photos of the Rebbe, they removed from klipa pictures altogether. And maybe in years past, in times past, there was a issue with taking pictures and holding pictures because of a mystical klipa. And we know from the earlier Rabbeim that the Rebbe Rashab was Mesa Nefesh, that no one should take his photo. The picture we have of the Rebbe Rashab was taken several months before he passed away, and it's a passport picture because he was thinking to leave Russia, he had no choice. But once the Rabbeim saw the incredible benefit of having pictures, they made it okay. And then the Rebbe concluded, Das was du hast verbrennt, the Tmune von Gufen Kadishin. You burnt the likeness, the countenance of holy bodies, that means the Rebbe Rayatz and the Amshin of the Rebbe, and he gave them a tikkun tshuva. The Rebbe told them how to fix it. And this part of the story he wouldn't tell me. What the Rebbe told him at this point he didn't tell me. The point of this is this. Pictures are chitzonius. And a chassid is involved in pnimius, which is Torah. And of course more important even than Torah is Heirah. But pictures have a place. They bring the Rebbe closer to us. And there's no doubt that the fact that all these years after Gimel Tammuz, there's such a vibrancy about the relationship between Chassidim and the Rebbe. And the Rebbe, although if there weren't pictures, it would also be is very much assisted by all of this chitzonius, by these photos and these videos and so on and so forth.